Thanks for joining us today. I am joined here with Justin Davis. He is a wild man of God. He is the founder of Bright Sky Ministry, and he's going to share a little bit about his story, how Family ID impacted his life and his family's life, and what he's doing with that, and how God's using him and his family to change the world. So, Justin, thanks for being here today with us. I really appreciate it, man.
Derek, thank you so much. It's so great to be here. And thanks for all that you guys do for so many people throughout the world.
Well, it's our pleasure. You know, we have a great big vision, even though we're a really small ministry right now. So tell us a little bit about you, man. Tell me about your family. What does your family look like?
Well, my wife and I, Jessica, have been married for almost 17 years now. We live in Edmond, Oklahoma, and we have two kids, great kids. I have a son, Joshua, who's 11, and I have a daughter, Sophie, who's 9.
Okay, that's fun. Those are, my kids are 12 and 11. They're 13 months apart, and so I'm sure, like yours, like mine, are they're thick as thieves, or is what they are. I mean, they're best friends inside the home, and they just have fun.
You're absolutely right. They're super close, and we couldn't be blessed with better kids. They really do care for others, and they care for each other. And I hope that continues on late into their lives.
Oh, that's awesome, man. Okay. So tell us about your Family ID experience. How did you get introduced to Family ID? Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, we were introduced to Family ID through Life Church. They spoke about your program one time, and I want to say this was about 5 years ago, maybe 6 years ago. And we thought, man, that sounds like a great program for us. Although we felt like we were a close family, and we were a Christian family, and we tried to spend a lot of time together, we didn't feel like we really had a purpose or an identity. What is it that we're doing with the gifts that God gave us? How are we changing the world?
Yep.
And so we saw this course. We were excited about taking it. And so we decided that with our life group, we would go through this course together. And that's what we did.
Okay. And you guys went through the digital, and this was you went through the old digital videos, right? Where they Greg on a stage and going through the stuff. And
that's right. Yeah, they were older videos. And I want to say they might've been on a DVD.
Yep.
But we watched the videos, and then we had a book that we went through together and completed the course that way.
Okay, so tell me what came out of that. Did you guys end up with an identity or an ID or a vision or mission or anything?
We sure did. For us, I bet it's difficult for some families, like it was for us, to really put everything together.
Mm-hmm.
But as we went through, we sat down together with our family, and we went over all of our core values and what was important to us and what we wanted to change. And yes, at the end of it, we were able to come up with a mission of what we wanted to do and our core values, which were faith, prayer, generosity, kindness, and love. And our mission was to further the kingdom of Christ through those core values.
Oh, that's awesome, man. That's all. When my family, we sat down and did it, I don't know, 8 years ago. My kids were really, really little. So it was mostly my wife and I.
Right.
And then it felt like it took even a couple of years to fine tune it and to really hone in on exactly what those core values were and exactly what that mission was. But then, man, boom, when you find it, it sticks, and it's awesome. It's awesome.
But, I tell you, Derek, even though we came up with that mission, we wrote it down, we had a plan, we still, in all transparency, we didn't have a purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Right as soon as the class was over, we sat down together and we're like, well, what does this mean for us? How are we going to implement this? What are the next steps? I bet for some families it's super easy. They can just click, okay, this is our purpose. This is what we need to do. Let's get to it. But for us, it was not that way. It took us several months of just earnest prayer to God to say, okay, now we have a mission down, but what are we going to do with this mission? What are our next steps? What are our purpose? And so, we turned to prayer. It really opened up our hearts to God to see, what are those next steps going to be?
Right. So where'd you end up? What came out of that? Where'd you end up?
Yeah. So after, months and months of prayer and feeling like we were kind of spinning our wheels a little bit, turning it over to God, we we got a phone call from our life group friends. These are great
Mhm.
friends of ours. They had just recently taken in two kinship foster care placements, which means that they are uh, close family members or friends that they are taking in for a temporary period of time to help these kids while the parents sort some things out.
Okay.
And these kids, they showed up with almost nothing, just the clothes on their back. And these friends of ours from Life Group called us and said, "Hey, is there any way that you can help us out and provide some of the essentials for these kids?" And so we decided as a family, our kids and Jessica and I decided that we were going to go to the local Walmarts
Yep.
and get this list out and buy what we can and take them over to these kids. And I could see the light click on in my kids' eyes, the joy in their eyes when they were going down the aisles and picking out things that were not for them. And at this time, they were, 6, 9-ish, and they were doing something selfless and for somebody else. And you could see that the joy that that brought them. And so right then, I could see God's plan for us. I could see that this is something that we wanted to do long term and in a bigger scale. I could feel it too. I knew that this was something that we needed to ramp up into a bigger a bigger mission. And so from that, we sat down and did a lot of paperwork and did a lot of planning and brainstorming, and we came up with Bright Sky Ministry, which is our nonprofit that we launched about 3.5 years ago. And through this nonprofit, we've been able to start sending supplies and essentials to foster families all over the states.
Oh man, that is so awesome. I mean, that's amazing. I know that feeling, and for your kids to have that feeling at such a young age of just, wait, I get to buy stuff for somebody else, and
Right.
it's going to help them. I mean, it is such a rewarding feeling, and now you guys get to do it over and over and over. And I think you told me in a previous conversation in 2020, you guys helped over 400 families across Oklahoma. Isn't that right?
Yeah, it's really grown, and thank God. I mean, it's all God's work. I think our first year we helped about 50 families, and we thought, oh, this is it. We've really made it. This is great. And then the next year it was 300, and then the next year it was 400, and in 21 our goal is to help 1,000 families, or
Oh,
1,000 children across the state of Oklahoma. So it's continuing to grow, and it's taken on a new form that it's got uh, God's work all behind it. It's taken on a whole new meaning that we would have never been able to imagine. And so we just want potential foster families to know that they are not alone. We want them to know that there's a community out there that loves them.
yeah.
We want those kids to know that there's a community out there that loves them. And we're there just to be that support. And it's been awesome to see the community step up. Even in 2020, it was such a tough year for everyone, but still, the community, the Oklahoma community, just they rally behind these children, these families, and it's been so awesome to see that support really kick in, even when times are hard for everyone.
Oh, that's fantastic, man. That's fantastic. What a blessing you are to the community and the state, and what a blessing that ministry is to families who need the assistance and the help that you're giving them. Okay, so tell me this. So you guys have a vision, you kind of stumble into it and say, this feels great. You start Bright Sky. Now you have a ministry that's running. How do you keep that fire alive? Or how do you keep reminding your family of what your identity is, and how do you live that out on a day-to-day basis, or a week-to-week, or month-to-month? What things do you do inside the home to continue to perpetuate your identity?
You know, it takes effort and it takes work. And I don't want to say that once you find your passion and once you find your mission in life, that things are easy from there on out, because that's just not the
Yeah.
case. When we started Bright Sky, there were hurdles to jump to get through that. There was paperwork to be done. There were setbacks. There were, so many things that come up that you aren't aware of that's going to happen that tries to set you back. We feel
Mhm.
like, as you get closer to doing what God wants you to do, there's going to be so many forces from the devil trying to stop you from doing it. And we've never found that to be more true than once we started working on our mission. But to answer your question, what we do is we continue to be there for each other. So we try to be there for our kids. We do our best to be focused on what they do, be there to guide them. I still try to focus intently on my wife.
Yep.
Our relationship is second to God. So we make sure that we spend time with each other. We go on dates still. We really try to focus our energy on making sure that our relationship is sound, so that our family's relationship is sound, so that everything else that we do in life is sound as well.
That's good. You got
And
to
you
have a
know,
strong foundation, right? Something
that's
strong to build on, or else it all just collapses down.
that's absolutely right. And you know, we also took some major steps about 3 years ago. We started downsizing. We got rid of a lot of material things that were just keeping us down. Really tried to open up our margin in our life, not only time wise but financially. We cut back on activities. You
Mhm.
know, we were caught up in the whirlwind that is life. And when you are caught up in those kind of things, it's hard to do good work for God. And so we realized, and it's a difficult process. I mean, this is something that you constantly have to work on. But for us, we realized that as we cut back and gave more margin in our life, we were free to do these other things, and we were free to take on the responsibilities that God wanted to give us. And without doing those things, we would not be able to sustain it. So it's been a great learning lesson over the last 5 years, and we are constantly tweaking and trying to change things and trying to improve things the best we can. But only through prayer and only through our relationships with each other can we decrease the craziness of life. And just to say, succeeding in your goals does not have to mean that your life is to be total chaos all the time. I feel
Right.
like you know people feel like they have to be go 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 going all the time, but sometimes just sitting back and being quiet is when you get the best ideas. Some solitude in your life can give you best ideas. And
That's it,
so
man.
I feel like us cutting back and us allowing God to speak into our lives in the quiet moments have given us a lot of these ideas that we're implementing today.
Oh, that's so rich, Justin. Just what you're saying is laced with wisdom, and then taking wisdom and making it into actions. In fact, it reminds me of Colossians 3. And in Colossians 3, Paul talks about, hey, put off these things and put on these things. And it makes me think, hey, if we're going to put on, Paul references kindness and goodness and compassion. But in your life, it sounds like, hey, if we're going to put on living out our mission, right? If we're going to put on living for God, we have to put off these things, which is idolatry and selfishness and living off mission, I guess, right?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
one thing for our family, one of our core values is being radically protective of our quality time. And so to do that, we do have to say no to a lot of stuff. And we have to look at every opportunity that comes up through that lens of, all right, would we rather go and do this, or would we rather have quality time as a family? And how does that line up with what we say is important? If we say it's important, are we living it out? Are we not living it out?
It's so true, and it's hard, isn't it? I mean, it's not always easy to make that decision. I mean, you have so many things being thrown at you all the time, so many things that you could say yes to, but sometimes it's saying no. That's the hardest thing to do, but it's the best thing for you.
Oh, and everything looks like a good opportunity. This
For
could
sure.
be an opportunity, right? I mean, even now as you venture into the ministry world, everything could be an opportunity, but it's important to say yes to the right things to stay on focus.
That's
Um,
right.
Okay, so I didn't throw this question at you previous, so I'm going to throw it at you now. If
Okay.
you were to tell a family who maybe is starting their process of, maybe it's the first time they've gone through a family ID workshop, or the first time they are engaging with family ID in some way, what advice would you give them now that you haven't arrived? I don't think I'm bursting your bubble by telling you that.
No,
Hey, you
no,
haven't
that's so
arrived,
true. Not at all.
um, but hey, you're a little bit farther down the road than somebody else. And so if you were going to look backwards or shout backwards to somebody who's on that road, but not where you are, what are maybe a couple things that you would tell them to prioritize or do or not do? What would you tell them?
I honestly, I think the most important thing is to not get frustrated and to set a time aside where you can put the effort in, go through the course, take the time to write things down,
Mm,
and take the time to communicate with your family what your thoughts are and what was important to you, and spend that time together to come up with a plan. Like I was saying before, we had to get rid of activities. We had to cut
mhm.
back on the things that we were doing, and it allowed us to open up time to do things like this. If you don't put your focus on the things that are important, you're not going to get where you want to be. And so it's going to take some sacrifice in some ways. It's going to take patience. It's going to take time. But my advice is to keep pushing forward through the course. Set aside the time to do it. Put it on your calendar if you have to. Do it with a group so they can help you go through it together and so you don't give up. It's not that it's a difficult course, but it takes time and it takes
Right.
effort, and you can't just watch it and turn it off. You have to watch it and write things down and talk about them, discuss them, revise them, go back over them,
Yep.
see what works for you. And that's a challenge sometimes when you're continuously busy with other things. So I that would be my number one thing, is just focus on getting the course done and spending time with your family. And I think the other pieces fall into place. And as you spend more time focusing on God and what He has in store for you, He will come in and be right beside you and be sure to place you in the place that you're supposed to be.
Oh man, that's so great. That's so great. I love it. I love it. And you're right. You talk about take the time to write things down.
Yeah.
In the family ID workshop, one of the things that we do is every person in the family identifies their top core values. And then there is a time of negotiation where you go together as a family and you figure out your family core values. But what ends up is that if your son or your daughter identifies, and your wife, if they identify their own core values, oh, that is the most valuable information that you could have, is to know, okay, my wife considers these 5 things her top values. If I want to love my wife well, I'll speak to one of those 5 things, right? Or if I want to love my son or my daughter well, I'll speak to one of these 5 things in their lives because they said that's what they value.
You're exactly right. It goes back to the love languages.
It-
That is their hearts, and if I know what their heart is, it's so much easier for me to speak to them. Knowing that my little girl loves generosity and she
yep.
wants to do those things for other people, it drew me in. It was like, well, how can we be more generous? And hearing her opinions on how to be more generous
It,
opened up my world to so many things that we could be doing that I wasn't thinking about. And so, we each had our own opinion of what our core values should be. They were surprisingly close in many ways, but then when
right.
we wrote them down together, they were our family core values and not just individual ones anymore. And so it pulled us together as a family and made us more cohesive as a unit because we decided these are what we were going to focus on, and each person had a say in what those values were going to be. And so they each have some buy-in of what we're going to be doing as well.
Ah, that's fantastic, man. Okay, Justin, thanks for hanging out with me this afternoon. Um, if somebody wanted to get in contact with Bright Sky, wanted to engage with Bright Sky Ministry or help support you guys or reach foster families or families that are fostering across the state, how could they do that? How could they get in contact with you guys?
Yeah, Derek, we are happy to help any foster family or kinship family across the state that needs any essential items. If they want to contact us either via our website, which is brightskyministry.com, or they can email me at info@brightskyministry.com.
Okay.
There are contact forms on there. There's request forms on our websites. We're happy to answer any questions. We're happy to help in any way that we can, or just to be there for support and point you in the right direction. We love foster families and we want to be there for you. And so feel free to contact us. We'd be happy to help.
And would that be the same thing if foster or kinship families are on somebody else's heart or on their core values or passion list? Would they reach out to you the same way if they wanted to help Bright Sky Ministries?
Absolutely. We're always looking for people that want to join in with us and help donate for the cause. Uh, we would love to have you on board. There's many ways that you can help us out, and we would love to talk with you. Whether it's financially, we find a volunteer opportunity for you, or just to have support. It's just so nice to have so much community that rallies behind us, and we get requests all the time, and there are families that reach out and want to meet those requests. And so we would love to have you on a list where we can reach out to you if you are there wanting to help a foster family in our state.
Awesome, man. Awesome. All right, Justin Davis with Bright Sky Ministry. Thank you for your time this afternoon. What a blessing you are, your family is, your ministry is, changing the world one family at a time across Oklahoma. Thanks for your time this afternoon, man.
Same to you guys. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much.
All right, see you, buddy.
Bye.